Pencil Kings, 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 Pencil Kings.
All right, welcome back. This is the Pencil Kings podcast. Today we're talking to yet another, we've had a lot of people from Germany, and I think that's really cool. One of the places that I spent a lot of time last year. There's a lot of very talented artists in Germany. Oh, there's talented artists all over the world, but we seem to hit on a lot of people from Germany. So I'm very excited to welcome Marco. And Marco, I'm not going to try to say your last name because I know I'm going to get it wrong. So I'm going to let you introduce yourself. Why don't you tell people first of all your full name, and then maybe like a 1-minute overview of the kind of artwork that you're doing, and then we'll get into this discussion today.
Okay. Well, much thanks for having me. My name is Marco Bauriedel. Not so nice name to speak in English, but typical German name. I'm working in the advertising industry at the moment. I'm doing mainly CGI work, technical direction and compositing, and storyboarding and concept as well. So all kinds of stuff that gets thrown at me, I try to tackle it. So and I've been working in the advertising industry now for 11 years, pretty long time. And until now, new tasks came that I found interesting all the time. So I stayed here to keep working on my skills.
Awesome.
Change topics all the time. This is my kind of style to deal with things, and I love it.
So where do you think, I feel like as an artist, at some point you hit your stride where in the beginning you're really learning. Like you may even be working professionally, but you're still learning so much. But then you get to a point where the technology is changing, but you get to be kind of a badass. Do you remember at what point that was? Like, or did you feel this shift between being where you feel like you're always learning and there's so much stuff to comprehend, but then you've got a good grasp of all the foundations, and you're like, no, I can create kind of any effect that I want. I can create anything that I want. This is where I'm at right now.
Well, I get back to myself and say, no, I still need to learn more. I never get to the point where I say, I know it all, because the field is so big. If you look at painting, programming, and special effects in Houdini or whatever, I always try to find new things. So it's hard for me to define a time a point in time where this is the case, honestly.
Interesting.
But
I guess,
of course, sorry to interrupt you. In the beginning, when I first got some feedback on my matte paintings, of course, that was a point where I found out, well, it's not as that bad, so I should continue like that. So that's how I think about it. I never look and say, oh, I'm good, I don't need to learn more. I always look forward.
But maybe it's a confidence thing then. In the beginning, it's like you're constantly proving yourself. It's like, wow, I can do that. Whereas you get to a level where you're like, I might not know how I'm going to do it, but now I know that I'm confident that this is no problem, or this is a discovery.
This has been with me for a very, very long time. Then I have to add that I started out with digital art kind of when I was 12 years old. My father bought me a Commodore Amiga 500 plus, and I started pixel painting photos and started animating stuff. It was a lot of fun back then. Then I forgot about it until the last years of my school time, and I got into 3ds Max and did a semester project with it. And after that, I got into Photoshop when I started working and apprenticeship, and then I found this passion back that I already experienced when I was 12 years old. Like back then, I was really having a postcard and trying to recreate an 8-bit look and the low resolutions the Amiga had back then. I tried to recreate, and this feeling like you can do this, you can recreate it. You have. I spent a lot of time with this, of course, but since back that time, I had a basic feeling of I can do things. I just have to spend time and learn and be patient with myself.
I think that's such great advice, the whole being patient part, because it does take so long, and it's easy to watch a film or play a game. You're like, wow, this looks amazing. I wonder how long it took. And it's not like it just took one person a long time. It took a whole team of people a long time when you're looking at a lot of these things. Now, this month, what we're trying to focus on is talking about the foundations. And your artwork is very advanced, but I feel like I want to speak to people who are getting started, and the idea of I feel like there's two schools of thought or ways that people are approaching this. One is that you should always focus on your foundations and study your foundations, and these are the steps to learning how to be an artist or how to improve or whatever. And I think that's good advice. Focus on the foundations. You're never really going to go wrong with that. The problem with it that I have is that it's just not a lot of fun, and so, or there's room for fun, but it's not the emphasis. And so when I looked at how I got started, it was a lot about fun, things that were interesting to me. So, and that's what I did. So you're interested in like, hey, it would look cool if something was underwater. And I remember working and creating this dolphin that was in the ocean and from a view of the seafloor looking at this dolphin. And that was really cool to me. There's all kinds of technical problems with it, of course, because I didn't know my foundations, but it still got me started, and I just kept doing these things that were fun and learning the fundamentals and the foundation things along the way. What's your thought about that when you're how you learned yourself? Did you go more the fun way, or were you more focused on, honing on the fundamentals and having a very rigid study pattern?
I think in the beginning, back then as a kid, I just started and finished something. Of course, the level was not very high. If I saw the things today, maybe I would think, well, it was not very good back then. But it was a basis for what I'm doing now. And today, and even when I really started out with this, I found, well, I learned the basics of Photoshop and was like, I want to do more. Exactly as you said, I had some things I wanted to create, like matte paintings. And I saw other artists' work and thought, how can I do this? And then I focused on it. And then when I couldn't get further, I did another project to have some more motivation and then got back to the first one. And I still use this kind of principle with different disciplines. Like I switch disciplines over time, like from photography to painting to programming to lighting, whatever, modeling. And I go round and round and come back to other topics. And I always get back motivation and new ideas I can use the next time I get to the point I have been in the circle when I get back there. So right now, for example, I just got into music production. It's completely different, but I really like it to get my thoughts away from the images, and it really helps me to get some new ideas, thinking differently in other ways. I want to come back to painting. I may have some new ideas and learn something new, how that I can use them. So hope that makes sense.
Yeah. Can you give an example of something like that? I know for myself, when I was getting started with digital art, there was no MP3s yet. The internet was just too slow. And so there was something that they had called S3Ms or mods. They called it the mod scene. Mm-hmm. And what it was sequencing, which just means that they could program in which sounds to play at which time. And so it created a very small, very efficient file size. And so I would listen to those, and that was so inspiring because it was almost like you had a soundtrack for a film, but it was music you had never heard before. So it really excited, I guess, like it helped my imagination come up with all kinds of scenes because I could create a scene that went with the music. But for you now doing the music production, what's the example that you could give and how it's helping you inspire and think more creatively when you come back to your work?
Well, the indicator, the starting point for me to do this was like I saw the possibilities with nowadays technology for home users like that. And I saw some examples and like crazy things you can do with regular software that's available to everyone. And similar to your case, I often at work when we produce 3D animation, we need to have some music, and of course we contract composers or buy music. But I just wanted to understand more the possibilities of it, even of different sounds. And when creating a sound, a music with this software I have here, I get new ideas for images I could create. So this is a circle. Of course, this is an extreme, well, how to say? This is a long distance between music and imagery. So the longest distance I have gone to so far compared to the other disciplines that I'm doing. Well, you could say programming is far away from painting in Photoshop, yes, but that is maybe a better example to tell you about. It was like on the job we had to create a Formula One car made of vegetables. And I remember there was a corn in front of the Formula One car, and my colleague had to model all the pieces per hand. And I said, no, you have to copy it. There must be a possibility to script this, to program this, and to have random textures for it too, so it doesn't look so virtual, so CGI. And this is how it got started in programming and Maya embedded language, and that led to Python, to some C++, and Vex and Houdini. So I think once you start, get a spark of a start of something, and get the chance to get in with the right motivation, then it's just great to have this. And I'm really thankful for this, knowing all the different disciplines a little bit and building upon and rising with this, because somehow you always get something from one discipline to take it to the next.
Okay, so I have to ask this because I've seen people like you, and I would almost argue that you're a genius because of how you're able to transcend so many different disciplines like music and programming and art. And you could say that, they're all related in terms of how the brain functions. And I've met a few other people like this, but you're really special. They can go in so many different disciplines. You probably realize this if you look around and you look at other artists, that there's, just the fact that you do programming and art, that kind of puts you in a smaller group. But then when you add music and programming and art, that's really rare. And what I'm interested in is how do you balance all of that, I guess, with, still having responsibilities to spend time with your friends, and maybe you have other hobbies that we haven't talked about, because it's a lot to aspire to. And from somebody looking from the outside in, they just see the results of all the things that you've done. You've learned programming, you've learned music production, or you're learning music production, you've learned high-level art production. Wow, this is just so much. Like, hey, I can't even think to approach that. I can't even think to approach one of those things. But I'm sure that you did it in a way that's like a life study, right? It's not just
Exactly.
that it happened one day and you knew all this stuff. But how do you get started with stuff? Because I feel like that's where people see how far ahead you are and like, why even bother trying? That this guy is like a genius. But I feel like it still is within the grasp of everyday people.
Well, thank you, but I think basically everybody can do this somehow. Especially in the last time, I started to think differently about this. But at the beginning, of course, I was in the same position to say, can I ever be like Dylan Cole? I would never say that I have the skills like he has, because he's very, very skilled in matte painting, for example. But it comes with time. I have a regular life with friends, with free time, with vacations, and 11 years are a long time. So it's hard to say, but I'm very motivated. Of course, I use some free time to learn. That comes to me. It comes to me. When I see something, I would like to know how it works. I always question things. When I started out in 3D, I was learning Cinema 4D, and it was like I was having a course. And after a few days, the tutor was very stressed because I asked so many questions that he didn't know how to answer that fast. So I think you have to keep you question everything, and don't be afraid to ask questions. This is very important. And if there is a person that answers you, or you go to the forums and ask questions, that doesn't matter, but you have to start question yourself and reflect about your own works. This is very important. I'd like to add to that, as you said, I might be a genius. I don't think so, honestly. And when I think about my past in the school time, I was really struggling. I was repeating 1 year. I had problems.
Really?
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. I was in college. Gymnasium is like college, I think. I was repeating 1 year. I was not good. Just in the end of school and in the art courses, I was pretty good. And after that, the teacher said, well, it was unnecessary that you repeated 1 year. But honestly, I question our whole education systems, and I think every child has a potential, creative potential, but our systems might reduce these potentials sometimes. I invite anybody who's interested on this topic of education to watch the movie Alphabet. It's a documentary about our school systems and what might be wrong with them to maybe educate the children to function in our systems as workers, but not with maximum creativity. Because I experienced this on my own. I was like, I didn't feel well in school, and I never see why I should learn most of the stuff. Many things, okay, you need them, but there were so many things that I thought, why do I have to learn it? Why do I have to learn it? And I think this is maybe an important point that we all can change in our societies for us to be more happy people. So this is like going a little bit out for now, but I think it must be discussed nowadays.
Yeah, I think it's actually really important, and it's interesting that you brought it up because it does tie in with the question that I started with of having the more academic approach of like, you should learn your composition, you should learn your color theory, you should learn this and that, versus doing what's fun and where you more of like an intuitive way of learning where you feel you want to create this thing, and so you start doing it, and then somewhere along the lines you realize, hey, what the vision is and what I'm making is not it's not coming together the way I want it to. Then that's the cue where you need to study, because there's some things that I feel like as humans we can intuitively do a lot of things. We can put things together really amazingly, but then we will get stuck in some places, right?
Yeah.
Like if somebody said, if you've never done anything with carpentry or anything like that before, and somebody said, hey, can you make a birdhouse? Some people would be able to make an amazing birdhouse without never learning any of this stuff. It's just they could intuitively do it. And other people would really struggle and they wouldn't know what to do. And you can't really say, I feel like in education, everyone is given the same sort of path,
Yes.
but we're all a little bit different. So
yes, exactly. So the same happened for me at university. I wanted to study art, and they said, "No, you have no talent."
Really?
Yes. It's
So
unbelievable, isn't it? Well, I was.
tell us a little bit about that. So let me get this straight. You went to the university, and did you have a portfolio that you gave them, or how did
Yeah.
they know?
Yeah,
Okay.
it was like, I have to tell you the whole story. It was the last year of school. In one semester, I was creating a little commercial with 3ds Max and CGI, and the teacher liked it and told, yeah, you should go to the German media contest for people under 21. I got there, I sent my work there. I got invited, I was nominated there, so it should be right. So I thought, yeah, I could study after school. And then I put some 3D works in my, it's a CD and there's a printed stuff, so they sent to the university. And then, they told me, no, yeah, we can't take you. Maybe because I've done 3D work before. Maybe they wanted people that just draw. That might be the reason. But I'm happy about this looking back now, because when I started working, I got some hints about looking on the internet for Photoshop stuff and concept art, and so a fire was ignited very fast. And there again, I didn't care anymore if I had studied or not. It just worked that way for me. So.
Yeah, that actually brings back some memories that I have where I went to I had this comic book. I think it was Wildcats. It was I think an Image comic book. The Image was the publisher, and I drew a picture of one of the characters, and it was all freehand, but it was based on something else, so I didn't trace anything, and it was amazing. Like it was really a breakthrough piece for me. I remember at that time I went to this CG school in the city here, and I might have been 15 or 16, and my parents arranged for me to meet them, and I showed them this piece, which I thought it was amazing. The guy's like, "Wow, did you trace that?" And I was like, "What?" I didn't really understand the question. I just like, "Oh, it's based off this other," or no, he said, "Did you design that character?" And I said, "No, it's based on this other character." And he just kind of, eh. And I just remember feeling like so deflated that I was so excited to go to the school, and then somebody telling you this, like, no, this thing that you love, this thing that you want to do, is like you don't measure up. This is for the big boys or whatever. And
Yeah, so sometimes
things obviously changed, but it didn't feel good in that moment. And I was talking with my sister-in-law today about how there's a scholarship in high school for art from the local art council or the cultural group or whatever it is, and I submitted my thing, and I remember I had like a music component and all this artwork that I had done and all this stuff, and I eat, breathe, and sleep art when I was in high school, and I didn't win. This other girl won it. I think she was a singer or something, and fast forward 15 years now, I've done a lot of things with art, and the other person is like does nothing with art now, and I just like nobody really knows how somebody's going to turn out. So if you're listening to this and somebody has told you that you sucked or that you're not good enough, it's like don't. But if you want to do it, just keep going. There's people out here. I'm sure Marco would love to hear from somebody that's like, yeah, my art school didn't accept me either, and I would love to hear from somebody, because I'll tell you to keep going if this is what you love. If you don't love it, if you think you want to be an artist because you want to be famous, or you think that you make a lot of money or something like that, it's probably not enough of the right motivation to let you stick with it. But if you love it, keep going.
I think life always finds a way like that, and let me tell you that from that university where they didn't want me, years later, like 6-7 years later, graduates came to have a look at my working place, and they were stunned how complex the software is. Like, oh, I've just learned to paint and to draw. Not that this is not something that you can use, but they were really flattened. Like, oh damn, I need to learn Photoshop. I could do some CGI in Maya or Cinema. How do I start? So it was like that guy was like, oh, I need to start all over again. I did not learn that stuff that I need in the industry right now. Mm-hmm. So it depends. Maybe this university is not very good here in Germany for that. I don't know, but yeah, it's hard to
Yeah,
say.
it's really hard to say. I think at some point though, you have to take responsibility for yourself.
Exactly.
That the teachers will do their best. I'm sure that every teacher in every university, they're doing the best of the ability that they have. But as a student, you also have to be aware of like what will my new employer need? What are the skills that they need? If they need, people to make logos all day because they do the news, learn how to make logos. Don't learn other stuff. Learn that first. Get really good at it.
Yeah.
But you have to know what you need to learn.
Yeah. You have to learn the stuff you need first for the job, and then go from there. Go what you enjoy, and see what life brings, and what other tasks come at you, and where you can use it and learn more.
All right, I've got maybe a little bit of a strange question, but I'm interested because you've learned so many different disciplines along the way that you're clearly very good at learning things, and you may not have thought about it before, but right now you're learning music production. So how do you approach music production? And what I'm interested in is the way that somebody who continues to learn, what your approach is, so that for the people listening who are learning about drawing or learning a Photoshop or learning painting, whatever it is, that they might get some ideas from you, from somebody who's a very successful learner. So for your music production, like, what's the first thing you do? Like, just get a software and go crazy, or you read manuals, or do you hire a coach? What do you do?
Maybe you can break it down to confrontation. And anything you learn, you are confronted. And when I think back to school, it was not very nice to be confronted like that with the teachers. And nowadays, it's like I have the software, I look into it, and I have some songs I like, so I put them in and I cut them down and see what I can do. And I have a little push that is the controller for the audio software. And blinking buttons in every color, and so this is motivating alone for me to try to understand what it does. And then just get some samples, put them together and try. I don't like to read the manuals when I don't have to, honestly. And of course, and in some cases you have to get some help from other people, especially in the beginning with Photoshop and Maya. It was not so easy to learn Maya for me, honestly. I remember that I had to use it in production other people were saying, oh, you can learn the software over the weekend, no problem. And I said, no, wait. It's not like that. And I remember half a year hard learning to get really into it. And you have to take your time, have the right people to ask, be it real people or on the forums. And I think then you go and always have ideas, next steps, what you want to achieve. Like with music now, I wanted to create some cool launch music. I'm not at that point now, but I just started and I have some instruments like classical instrument, orchestra, and I really love just to push the buttons to hear the sound and combine and try something new, maybe record something crazy with my guitar and combine it to see what springs from it and see the effects I have in there. Like, what can I do with it? There's a knob, I turn it around, what happens now? And break it down to smaller and smaller pieces. So I go smaller and smaller steps, but on the big view, I'm proceeding, I'm learning. And the more I learn the small steps, the more I'm able to do bigger steps. And the more the overall understanding comes together. So maybe that's a good way to explain it.
Yeah, I think that's actually a great way to explain it. And we stumbled upon this a few episodes ago, talking with another artist, Shane Madden, where he was saying that one of the most important, maybe the most important skill for an artist is to be able to deconstruct, to break something down. So you look at a beautiful piece of artwork, like you could go to Marco's website and you could look at one of his paintings and you could look really closely at it. And then as you're looking very closely, you might start to think, hey, wait a second. This perspective is too perfect. It doesn't look like it's made by hand. I wonder if he used 3D. Probably he did. And then you realize, okay, so this is a combination of 2D work and 3D work. And you start breaking it down even further and further until smaller and smaller elements. So I think this skill is really important. And then the other thing that I think is amazing that you mentioned is how you have this thing in mind that you want to do, this style of music, and hearing the sounds, and you get this delight out of working towards this project. And that's where I feel that the fun comes in. This fun component, that if you're too academic and saying like, okay, I'm going to learn this music software and I'm going to start on page 1 of the manual. No, it starts with a project. And even though you don't know the steps from the beginning to the end, you sort of just figure it out along the way. And then when you get stuck, you find those people who can help you get past that sticking point, and then you continue to move forward.
Exactly. That's it. When back then, being 12 years old, having my Amiga, it was like I was creating animations with my neighbors, and a lot of them were like had no talent in arts, really completely different types of human beings, and we were sitting together just laughing all the time about funny things, and just got in the flow, in a working flow. And this is the first time I experienced that you have to have fun to really learn faster. This is exactly what you say.
Yeah, I feel like this message is so important, and after it took a long time to really think about it, and it's like why are some people able to progress so quickly? I feel like we all learn differently, and it could be that for me, I'm the type of person that learns by fun, and that you are as well, and other people are more of follow the instructions. I'm not sure, but I feel good to talk about this and to spread this message of like the answer is fun. Do the things that are exciting to you. Do the things that are fun. You'll learn faster. You'll have a bigger smile on your face while you're doing it. You'll work a little bit longer. When you wake up, you'll feel excited to get to work. I remember learning when I was building websites for the first time that I would forget to eat. I would just have so much fun doing it. 10 hours a day, and my mom would have to force me to get off the computer to eat. And when I couldn't be at the computer, I would write code with a pencil and paper because I loved doing it so much. It was so much fun. It was so fascinating to me. Now, I've moved past it. It's not fun anymore. But in that time period, it was amazing. All right, Marco, we've been talking for a little while now, and I think that just the last 10 minutes, if you're listening and you're wondering which direction to go or how you should study, just rewind 10 minutes, listen to this again. If there is a secret that I found to learning, this is it, what Marco and I have just been talking about, focusing on the fun. But any last words before we go here today for people who are learning and maybe they're at the beginning of the journey of being an artist?
Well, let me think what else to say. Always follow your heart, what you want to do. And let me give you a strange example. I got into photography, and I love landscapes. I just love them. I love to travel far away into other countries and photographs of people, see the people, experience the life there. And I always had to dream to go onto a helicopter and photograph from there, from the sky. And I looked it up, and well, it was pretty expensive. But then I said to myself, well, I have no car right now. I'm living in the city. I don't need it. Why not spend the money and just do it? And I've done it 2 or 3 times now, and it's unforgettable. It's like it was the right thing to do in the right time. And I followed my heart with this, and I just can tell anyone, follow your heart, do what you love about art, what you ever would like to do. If you can't afford it, just go step by step until you can. And I think that's the way to go.
I love it. All right. that is the end. If you want to see the show notes, they will be at pencilkings.com/podcast, where we have all of the episodes. Thank you so much, Marco. I really appreciate you sharing your wisdom with people and what you've learned over the last lifetime, basically, because we talked about it all the way back to school days. So
it's never stopped. You learn all your life, I think.
Yeah. All right.
So,
well, yeah.
Thanks a lot
I really
for
appreciate
having
it, and thank you very much. Take care.
Thank you. Bye.
Demands patience, skill, years of practice.
Ah, you talk like a fool. I would trade a century of practice for an ounce of inspiration.